There's an oven that needs no electricity, no gas, no fuel of any kind. You use it once in the morning, walk away, and return 8 hours later to a fully cooked hot meal. It sounds impossible. It sounds like a scam. It sounds like something a desperate YouTuber made up for clicks. But your great-grandmother used this oven every single day. Millions of World War II families depended on it when fuel was rationed and power was unreliable. Soldiers cooked hot meals in trenches, using nothing but a box and some insulation. The device was called the fireless cooker, and for over a century it was standard equipment in American kitchens. Then it vanished. Not because it stopped working. It works exactly as well today as it did in 1943. Not because something better replaced it. Nothing has ever been invented that cooks food using zero energy. It vanished because appliance companies couldn't make money from an oven that never needs replacing, never needs fuel, and never generates a monthly bill. Today, selling a fireless cooker commercially requires navigating regulations specifically designed to make it impossible. Home versions exist in a legal gray zone. The knowledge itself has been systematically erased from cooking education and home economics. They took your grandmother's oven and made sure you'd never know it existed. In this video, I'm showing you exactly what they hid. I'm explaining exactly how it works. And I'm telling you exactly how to build one yourself for less than the cost of a fast food meal. By the end, you'll understand why your energy bills exist, and you'll know how to make them optional. Before I show you the oven, you need to understand a simple physics principle that the energy industry hopes you never learn. Heat doesn't disappear, it only moves. When you boil water on a stove, you add heat energy to the water. When you turn off the stove, that heat doesn't vanish, it slowly transfers to the surrounding air. The water cools because heat moves from hot things to cold things until everything reaches the same temperature. This process takes time, lots of time. A pot of boiling water takes over an hour to cool to room temperature. During that entire hour, the water is still hot enough to cook food. Your great-grandmother understood this. Modern cooking education deliberately ignores it. If you can trap heat and prevent it from escaping, you can cook food indefinitely using only the heat you added at the beginning. No continued fuel, no ongoing energy, just physics doing what physics always does. The fireless cooker is simply a heavily insulated box. You heat food to boiling on a regular stove, place the pot in the insulated box, close the lid, and walk away. The insulation prevents heat from escaping. The food continues cooking for hours using heat that already exists. 8 hours later, you open the box to find a hot, fully cooked meal, beans that would take 3 hours of active cooking, stews that would require constant attention, rice that would burn if you walked away from a normal stove, all cooked perfectly, using zero additional energy. Number one, how WWII families used fireless cookers. When World War II began, governments on both sides faced an energy crisis. Fuel that should have heated homes and cooked meals was being diverted to military production. Families were told to ration gas, coal, and electricity. Every watt saved was a watt that could power the war effort. The fireless cooker became standard government advice. Posters promoted it, pamphlets explained construction, home economics classes taught operation. Every family was encouraged to build and use a fireless cooker as their patriotic duty. The math was compelling. A traditional stew requires 3 hours of constant heat. That's 3 hours of gas or electricity. A fireless cooker needs only 20 minutes of heating to bring food to boiling, then zero energy for the remaining cook time. That's an 85% reduction in cooking fuel. During wartime rationing, 85% savings meant the difference between having enough fuel for winter heating and running out in January. Families built fireless cookers from whatever materials were available: wooden boxes filled with hay, metal containers packed with newspaper, old trunks insulated with wool blankets. The construction didn't matter. Only the insulation mattered. Soldiers at the front used improvised fireless cookers to prepare hot meals without visible cooking fires that would attract enemy attention. Bring water to boil quickly over a small flame, transfer to an insulated container, hide everything, eat hot food hours later. The device was so effective that military manuals included construction instructions. The same military that now spends billions on portable cooking equipment once taught soldiers to cook with boxes and blankets. After the war, everyone was supposed to keep using fireless cookers. They worked too well to abandon. They saved too much money to forget. That's not what happened. Number two, why the appliance industry killed fireless cookers. In 1945, the war ended and American manufacturing needed new customers. Factories that had built tanks began building refrigerators. Assembly lines that produced bombs began producing ovens. An entire industrial infrastructure needed peacetime products to sell. The fireless cooker was a problem. You can't sell electricity to someone who doesn't use electricity. You can't sell gas to someone who doesn't burn gas. You can't sell new appliances to someone whose cooking device never wears out and never needs replacing. A fireless cooker has no moving parts. Nothing breaks. Nothing needs maintenance. Nothing becomes obsolete. A well-made fireless cooker from 1920 works exactly as well today as it did a century ago. The appliance industry needed that to change. Marketing campaigns promoted modern electric and gas ranges as symbols of progress. The fireless cooker was rebranded as old-fashioned, primitive, something your backward grandmother used before technology improved her life. Home economics curricula were rewritten. The same classes that taught fireless cooking during wartime suddenly stopped mentioning it entirely. New textbooks focused exclusively on appliances that required purchasing, installing, and continuously fueling. Within a single generation, the fireless cooker went from standard kitchen equipment to forgotten historical curiosity. Your grandmother knew how to cook without power. Your mother was never taught. You never knew it was possible. This was an accident. This was strategy. General Electric, Westinghouse, and every other appliance manufacturer profited from your ignorance. Gas and electric utilities profited from your dependence. An entire industry was built on making sure you never learned what your great-grandmother knew. Number 3, the regulations that make selling illegal. Today, selling a fireless cooker commercially requires navigating a maze of regulations that seem designed to prevent exactly that. Food safety laws require cooking equipment to maintain specific temperatures for specific times. The fireless cooker works differently. Temperature gradually decreases over the cooking period. The total heat exposure is the same, but the temperature curve doesn't match regulatory requirements written for conventional appliances. The regulations don't say fireless cookers are dangerous. They say fireless cookers don't fit the testing protocols. And equipment that can't be tested can't be certified. And equipment that can't be certified can't be sold commercially. Who wrote these regulations? Industry groups representing appliance manufacturers and utility companies, the same corporations that profit when you can't access alternatives, wrote the rules that determine what alternatives are legal. Commercial kitchens in most states cannot use fireless cookers. Health inspectors don't have checkboxes for cooking methods that don't involve continuous heat sources. Restaurants that tried to save energy with fireless cooking faced citations and closures. Home use remains legal because regulating private kitchens is politically impossible. But commercial manufacture faces liability concerns that most companies won't accept. Insurance policies don't cover cooking equipment that regulators don't recognize. The result is a device that everyone can legally use, but almost no one can legally sell. Information is available, but products aren't. Knowledge exists, but commercial implementation is blocked. You can build a fireless cooker yourself and use it legally. You just can't easily buy one. And that barrier, that small inconvenience, is enough to keep millions of people dependent on energy they don't need to use. Number 4, how a fireless cooker actually works. The construction is almost embarrassingly simple. That's why they don't want you to know about it. You need a container large enough to hold your cooking pot with several inches of space on all sides. This can be a wooden box, a plastic cooler, a metal trunk, or even a cardboard box for temporary use. You need insulation to fill the space around the pot. The best options are materials that trap air in small pockets. Hay was the traditional choice, giving the device its nickname of hay box cooker. Modern alternatives include wool blankets, styrofoam peanuts, shredded newspaper, old pillows, or commercial insulation. You need a tight-fitting lid that seals the top and prevents heat from escaping upward. The lid should also be insulated. That's it. No moving parts, no special materials, no technical knowledge required. To use it, you prepare food normally on your regular stove. Bring everything to a full rolling boil. Maintain that boil for 10 to 20 minutes, depending on what you're cooking. Then you transfer the pot immediately to the fireless cooker. The pot must have a tight-fitting lid to prevent moisture loss. Place it in the insulation nest, pack insulation around the sides, close the outer lid, and walk away. Cooking times in a fireless cooker run roughly double to triple normal stovetop times. But that time requires zero attention and zero energy. You can leave the house, you can go to work, you can sleep. The food cooks itself using heat that already exists. 8 hours later, you open the cooker to find food at approximately 180 degrees Fahrenheit. Hot enough to eat immediately, perfectly cooked through hours of gentle retained heat. Number 5, what you can cook without power. The fireless cooker handles any dish that involves liquid and extended cooking time. That covers most of what humans actually eat. Beans cook perfectly in a fireless cooker. Bring to boil for 20 minutes, transfer to the cooker, wait 8 hours. No checking, no stirring, no burning because you forgot to adjust the flame. Rice works beautifully. Bring to boil, transfer immediately, wait 1 hour. Perfect rice every time without watching the pot or worrying about scorching. Stews and soups are ideal candidates. The long, slow cooking that develops flavor happens automatically. The meat becomes tender. The vegetables soften perfectly. The broth concentrates and deepens. Oatmeal and porridge can be started the night before. Bring oats and water to boil before bed. Place in the fireless cooker. Wake up to hot breakfast with zero morning preparation. Stocks and broths that normally require hours of simmering cook themselves overnight. Bones, vegetables, and water become rich stock while you sleep. Even tough cuts of meat that require braising work perfectly. The long cooking time at moderate temperature breaks down connective tissue into gelatin. Cheap cuts become tender and flavorful. The only foods that don't work are those requiring dry heat, browning, or rapid high temperature. You can't bake bread or roast vegetables in a fireless cooker, but you can cook most everyday meals using a fraction of the energy you currently spend. Number 6, the energy math. They don't want you to calculate. Let's run the numbers that utility companies hope you never think about. A typical electric stove burner uses approximately 2,000 watts on high. Running for 3 hours to cook beans uses 6 kilowatt hours of electricity. At average residential rates, that's roughly $1 per pot of beans. A fireless cooker needs that burner for 20 minutes instead of 3 hours. That's 0.67 kilowatt hours instead of 6. Roughly 11 cents instead of $1. One pot of beans saves you 89 cents. That seems trivial until you multiply by every meal, every day, every year. A family cooking 2 meals daily on the stovetop spends approximately $60 per month on cooking electricity. Using fireless cooking methods for appropriate dishes cuts that to approximately $10 per month. $50 monthly, $600 yearly. Exposed, $6,000 per decade. Now multiply that by 100 million American households. $60 billion per year flows from family bank accounts to utility companies for energy that physics says they don't need to use. $60 billion annually. That's why the fireless cooker disappeared. That's why cooking education stopped teaching it. That's why regulations make commercial production nearly impossible. Your energy bill isn't a law of nature, it's a business model, and the fireless cooker breaks that business model completely. Number 7, how to build one today. You can build a working fireless cooker in less than an hour using materials that cost almost nothing. The simplest version uses a cooler you probably already own. Remove any internal trays, line the bottom with several inches of insulation. Old towels, blankets, or pillows work fine. Newspaper stuffed into plastic bags works too. Create a nest in the center where your cooking pot will sit. The pot should be surrounded by insulation on all sides and bottom with several inches of clearance. Make sure you have enough additional insulation to pack around the sides and top of the pot once it's placed inside. The pot should be completely buried in insulating material. Use a pot with a tight-fitting lid. Heat loss through an unsealed lid defeats the entire purpose. Heavy pots with good lids work best. Cast iron is ideal because it holds heat well. For the cooler lid, add more insulation to the underside if the existing insulation seems thin. The top is where most heat escapes. More is better. That's it. You've built a fireless cooker for $0 using things you already have. More permanent versions can be built into kitchen cabinets or constructed as standalone furniture. Some families build beautiful wooden boxes that look like hope chests, but function as energy-free cooking devices. The construction doesn't matter. The insulation does. Any container that surrounds your pot with several inches of trapped air will work. Number 8, the survival application. They don't discuss. When power goes out, most families lose the ability to cook. Electric stoves don't work. Even gas stoves often require electricity for ignition and safety systems. Suddenly, a family with a full pantry can't prepare food. A fireless cooker changes that equation completely. You need only enough fuel to boil water once. A small camp stove with a single gas canister can bring water to boil dozens of times. Each boil starts a fireless cooking cycle that finishes without additional fuel. During extended power outages, this matters enormously. Families with fireless cookers can prepare hot meals indefinitely using minimal fuel reserves. Beans, rice, oatmeal, and stews remain available when neighbors are eating cold, canned food. WWII families understood this. When bombs destroyed power stations and fuel depots, fireless cookers kept families eating hot food. The device isn't just economical, it's emergency equipment. Modern emergency preparedness rarely mentions fireless cooking. Survival websites focus on stockpiling fuel and expensive backup generators. The simple solution that worked for millions of families during actual emergencies has been edited out of emergency planning. Why? Because generators need fuel purchases. Camp stoves need gas canister purchases. The fireless cooker needs almost nothing, no ongoing purchases. No corporate dependency, no profit for anyone selling emergency supplies. They took a device that every American kitchen contained and erased it from existence. They replaced energy-free cooking with appliances that require constant fuel purchases. They replaced knowledge passed between generations with dependency on corporations that profit from your ignorance. They replaced self-sufficiency with monthly bills that never end. Your great-grandmother cooked dinner while she worked in the garden. She prepared breakfast while she slept. She fed her family hot meals using a wooden box and some hay while spending almost nothing on cooking fuel. You stand in front of an electric stove, watching a pot, adjusting flames, using energy every second, paying bills every month, dependent on systems that can fail at any moment. The fireless cooker still works. The physics hasn't changed. The only thing that changed was your knowledge of it. Now you know. You know what they hid. You know why they hid it. You know how to build one yourself for less than the cost of your next energy bill. The question is whether you'll keep paying for energy you don't need or start cooking the way your great-grandmother did, for free, without power, without dependency on anyone. Build one this weekend. Test it with a simple recipe. Feel what it's like to open a box 8 hours later and find hot food that cooked itself using nothing. Then ask yourself why no one ever told you this was possible. Subscribe if you want more knowledge they don't want you to have. Share this with everyone still paying for energy they could save. Because the oven isn't illegal. Your knowledge of it is what they tried to make disappear. I'll see you in the next video.